All right.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. Um, we are super excited to be with you tonight. I'm just going to give a very brief overview for those of you who are joining and are not currently aware. This series has come out of a partnership with the Connecticut Farmer Veteran Coalition and through a grant through the Small Business Administration. I guess I should introduce myself first. I'm Sarah Layton. I am the Agricultural Programs Coordinator for Connecticut Resource Conservation and Development, which is a mouthful. We go by CTRC&D, and we have a variety of agricultural programs in the state. So through our partnership with the Connecticut Farmer Veteran Coalition and the Small Business Administration, we are working to establish a virtual farmer veteran resource hub and marketing initiative. And what that means is it is a dual facing program, both to bring much needed resources to the state's farmer veterans. We're trying to promote farmer veterans to consumers around the state and also create a resource hub to support them going forward, which is why we are featuring these. We have a marketing series going on. We'll have some business webinars coming out next, and then we will be doing some on-farm training opportunities launching later this spring into the summer. And then the other side of the coin is to reach out to consumers in the state and to let them know where they can support the farmer veterans in the state. And we have a website, CT Veteran Grown, which we launched on Veterans Day 2023. And that is the dual facing website where you can find resources for, thank you for dropping that in there, Sarah. The link is in the chat. You can find resources for yourself if you are a farmer veteran, and then also consumers can find you on a map. If you sign up, you can use the feature where you can put on your website, your email, whatever social media pages you have there, whatever's going on at your farm, where people can buy your product, what kind of products you sell. So that is all on an actual map, and then it's searchable for consumers. So, I'm Sarah in Deep River, and I'm hearing about this new program, and I say, I really want to know who is selling beef in my area, who is selling veggies in my area. I go on the map, I put in my zip code, I put in whatever I'm interested in purchasing, and it's going to show me who the farmer veterans in my area are. So we're really excited to grow this program. We are in the early stages of this. This is a 3-year program, and we hope that it will continue on after this funding. We will be looking for alternate funding. And so we're just getting started. We thank you all for being here, and I will turn it over to Sarah with Miranda Creative.
Thank you, Sarah. My name is Sarah Gibbons, and I'm here with my coworker, Juliet Del Rio. We're with Miranda Creative. CTRC&D has reached out to us to help support in some of their marketing and branding efforts. So we've partnered up with them to bring this web series to you all. So just some logistical things moving forward. Everybody's already got their camera off and on mute, so thank you very much. Juliet is going to go through our presentation, and I'm sure there's going to be some questions. Please feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm going to be monitoring the chat, and we'll have some time at the end, about 15 minutes or so, to do a little Q&A session if there's any questions that anybody has regarding the material. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Juliet and let her begin. Thank you.
Thank you. So as you guys are hopefully aware, you are now attending the go-to-market strategy approaching stores, markets, and restaurants. So this has more of a physical in-store marketing approach to it. So who am I? So these are the two me's that you can see. I previously worked as the community outreach and marketing manager at a garden center in New Jersey, ranked among the top 100 in the nation. And for 3 years, I worked directly with local artisans and farms to place their product in the store and hold collaborative workshops to benefit both businesses. So I have additional retail experience beyond that, several years of e-commerce experience. And this is a presentation based on what I've learned from being in that space. And now there is below the me you see today as the digital community manager at Miranda Creative. where I do a lot of different digital solutions such as email marketing, SEO, content, social media, and digital advertising. And before I moved to Connecticut, I was in New Jersey as an adjunct professor of composition and literature at Drexel University and the University of Delaware because I got my MFA in creative writing from Drexel University. So on today's agenda, we're covering a few core topics such as partnerships, market research, events, wholesale purchasing, and merchandising. We're looking at these specific areas because it's important to not get stuck in one season of revenue, being that and think of something new, and that's where creativity comes in by Edwin Catmull. The reason I was drawn to this quote for today's presentation is because that is what we are doing, is problem solving in creative ways, and we often have to keep our approach creative when forming these partnerships and thinking about the potential that a relationship could hold. So we'll start by talking about partnerships and finding a fit. So you've got this product, maybe you've got somewhere in mind, or maybe you're not sure exactly what. And I was really drawn to the display since I had this presentation up, so what small, a large. I also included a bushel with it, and that way, if you don't like carrots, you can pick out your CSA to exclude that. So they're having an approach where they're becoming more market style, and now they have candles, they have other goods from local farms who they don't carry that product, so they're partnering together to cross promote. So some suggestions on the side column are trendy boutiques, local grocery stores, higher volume farm stands, garden centers, small gift shops, cafes and crafty galleries will have those. Anywhere that has a checkout with an impulse buy section is a great place to put your product. I can confirm it does work. Being in a retail space, if we moved a product from the back wall of the registers to right at that impulse buy purchase spot, products move so much more quickly because you're bored, you're waiting in line, you start thinking about this project, it's looking at you, you're looking at the product, so it works. And we'll talk about the market research at the level that we're at. Obviously, we could go very intensive into market research if we have $1 million from an investor, but we're doing our market research for local partnerships. So the biggest thing I want to consider is that you have audience overlap, but not market competition. So this can mean, people, you have the same demographic that you're attracting. They would like both of your products, but it's not taking up that same space. So first, you want to define your objectives, start looking for partners and what you want to achieve, what can come out of that partnership, both the benefits and the risks. Define your buyer personas and where they might be shopping. Are they going in person to farmers markets, or are they kind of the person to get their groceries delivered? As well as listing your main competitors. It's always a good practice to see what they're up to. You can learn from their mistakes, you can learn from what they're doing right, and then find ways that you can tweak that to work for yourself as well. So let's talk about crafting a pitch. And I'm going to use the term pitch colloquially here because I think there's a better term for it. However, we know the term pitch as your elevator pitch, your sales pitch, your business pitch. A pitch is essentially telling your story and why you have value, but there's more to the value than that. So I put this title as I've been trying to reach you about your extended car warranty because it's difficult to get your product out there. You don't know if you're feeling like too much of a salesperson. So in my dues column, I have printed handouts with pricings, offerings, and if possible, sales data. You can tell your story. You can follow up, which relates to the other column about not approaching during the busy season. Definitely do your market research. Where being at a garden center, people will call us in the spring and we are like, we cannot have one thought beyond the next hour. Not a good time. You can also give samples. I know we've had samples shipped to us where we tried a Bees Company lotion. We wouldn't have bought it, but then we tried the product and thought this was great. Let's start carrying it. In the don'ts, don't show up without a business card. Don't avoid face-to-face. I know it can be nerve-wracking to try and approach someone in person, but it's important to let them see you when you tell your story. And don't intrude. So you might have your piece of paper sitting on their desk, and that's fine. You can keep top of mind for as long as possible. But also being on this side, there have been people who know, they want us to buy a radio ad. They want us to buy a space in a magazine. So they bypass the front people who would say yes or no to going back to the office, and they just show up at the office door, and that's very intrusive. So while I don't think many people do take that approach, as someone who's been on the side of being harassed by salespeople, I don't recommend it. It will have the opposite effect of what you think. So the pitch, I mentioned we're going to use a new word for this, also referred to as value proposition. Since we're referring to product placement in another business's space, your company's value proposition is the core of your competitive advantage. It clearly articulates why someone would want to buy from your company instead of a competitor. So we talked a couple slides ago about finding the fit. Let's talk about what goes into finding that fit. So the value proposition will include several pieces. It's identifying your customer's main problem or gap. In this case, it could be the retailer's space and what they need, or the retailer's customers, their customers, not yours. Identifying all the benefits your product offers, describe what makes these benefits valuable, connect this value to your buyer's problem, and differentiate yourself as the preferred provider of this value. So this is a generic value proposition canvas on how you can create these two columns and charts to see what's a fit. So they want gains. Well, this is what you have that creates gains. They have pains. This is what you have that relieves pains. I mean, you can fill in the other sections. So maybe you're approaching a restaurant, they want to get into the farm to table space. You can talk about how sourcing local is something they can promote on their website, their social media, their menus as well. You are filling a gap in what they offer, and local produce, local meat, local dairy and eggs, local soap, or whatever it is that you would have, local coffee. Think about how you might be won over. You also take convincing to purchase a product and bring it into your home. Now we're thinking about this at a larger scale for a business where they're purchasing a large quantity of this product. Often pleasure is the primary emotion associated with buying something. Well, business owners get pleasure from watching other people buy things, specifically their inventory. So it's best to convey that with previous sales data if you can. That will have that psychological response of thinking those could be numbers in my account, and so on. This brings up a concern, the cost of scale inventory. So something I've commonly encountered is people are worried it won't sell. How do they know that your product will sell? So you'll want to alleviate concerns. How can you meet them halfway to promote your products in their store? Let's talk about why you would want to do that for someone. There's a term called inventory carrying cost or holding costs. So the definition is it's an accounting term that identifies all business expenses related to holding and storing unsold goods. The total carrying costs include the related costs of warehousing, salaries, and transportation, and handling, taxes, insurance, as well as depreciation, shrinkage, and opportunity costs. So that is a larger definition that an analyst would use. But the way we want to look at it is Inventory sitting on the shelf is seen as wasted money, something else could have been there that did bring in profit. So there is an equation to calculate the total carrying costs, just to get it from the mindset of people with a physical space, if you're not used to having a retail space of your own to make these decisions with. So businesses reduce carrying costs by minimizing inventory on hand, increasing inventory turnover, or redesigning retail and warehouse space. So what this looks like in action, we want to think about the term retail or sales per square foot, which is how retail spaces calculate whether or not a product might be worth it to have in their store. So they look at the total sales revenue over a period of time, dividing it by the total square footage of retail space available. And you can also look at that by display as well. So when I was at the garden center, I pitched to the owner some local soaps. They wanted to be in our store and, have a little table at the front. And she asked me about markup and turnover. So her first question was, why should I carry an item that will make $5 on each when in the same display case, I could have an item that makes $20 on each? One of these factors is how much more will I sell? Are you selling one $20 item or 10 $5 items? But overall, what are the margin profits being made there? And she also said that an item that doesn't sell is taking up space where we could put an item that does sell. The risk isn't just having unsold inventory that's sitting on the shelves, it's missed sales from other better products that could be there. So when you're asking someone to carry your product, they're making the decision if they want to give precious floor space to a new item, which can take not only convincing but follow through if you want to see them place another order with you. So that will take some legwork on your end, which is where I would recommend cross-promotion marketing. So how can you meet them halfway to promote your products in their store? Maybe if they're unsure or if you're trying to just get started, you could offer to run digital ads directing consumers to go to their store. So if you have a Facebook account or an Instagram account, you could run ads saying, hey, I've got this product. If you can't meet me at this farmer's market, go to this physical store. The product will be there all the time. You can set up a product locator or other map linking to websites carrying your products. Even just having that link to their website could be of value if they're interested in backlinks and cross-promoting. You could provide signage to enhance the in-store's display. In fact, pretty much everyone who has had a pop-up product in our store gave us some kind of printed physical hard copy sign to hang up, more than just a piece of paper, so that people are recognizing their logo and being directed to their display. You can also engage on your organic social media to showcase your displays. If you go into the store, take a photo, give a shout out, tag them, find ways to direct sales there, which might seem a little counterintuitive. If you also sell your product directly, maybe you have a higher markup on your own, but you'll want to remember that if you're trying to expand your market reach, you do need to make that of value to the people who are carrying your product. So now let's take a look at events. We've talked about product placement, but some of the farms around us offer services, or they offer a product that can be turned into an event. So here I have some pictures of an event we did in the greenhouses. We had a local artist come in and teach a watercolor class. So if you're a farm and you're thinking, well, I've got this greenhouse, I've got this barn, what events could you have in that space? If you're not sure and you don't have the skill set, see if there's anyone around you who you might be able to invite into that space. You're bringing people then to your property, increasing the brand awareness. And this was really fun. It was a freezing cold February day, and we were in the 70-degree greenhouse drawing and painting. And there's, as you see in the bottom photo, some really talented artists who came to join the class. So it's an easy way to cross-promote both of your audiences. Often the person with the space will do the marketing for the event and the guest host brings all the supplies, but that's something you'll want to figure out on who's taking what responsibility to make sure that this event has good attendance. I have two other event photos here. So this is actually a veteran in New Jersey. He came to our space to host a bonsai class. He got into bonsai because it's very therapeutic, brought a lot of calmness to his life. And so he had a bonsai business. We didn't have a bonsai business. So he taught people how to use a baby bonsai and trim the roots, tie it, sculpt it, different techniques, and getting people interested in that side of things. And from there, he actually got more business with people asking him to help with their bonsais. And in the top corner, we carried local honey, and the local beekeeper came during pollinator week to give a talk on bees and honey and pollination. And he brought one of his frames with him in a pop-up case so that people could see it. And the kids loved it, actually watching bees crawl around in their honeycombs. So that was a really great partnership to get someone whose product we already carried and then have them promote it by giving a talk. And we put it on Facebook Live, and the recording was able to stay there. So when you're thinking about your event and getting it out there, you should have an events page on your website. If you don't, come to our next webinar. You should have Facebook events. This is really important because it's all about the discoverability. You'll see, maybe 300 people marked as interested and you got 20 people who actually went, but it's free. So why not put your posting on there? And then you've got them keeping you top of mind for the next time you do that event. You can also use Eventbrite, or there's other event ticketing websites out there besides Eventbrite. They charge different fees, but know that Eventbrite does charge a fee. And when you create your event, it will say, do you want to absorb this fee, or do you want to pass this on to the purchaser, to the consumer, to absorb the fee? So it could be a $20 event. Maybe you only get 18, or maybe they end up paying 22. But essentially, the trade-off is that you're getting discoverability on their platform. And I know even with my generation, we will use Eventbrite to Google events near me. That's how I found a lot of classes that I've gone to. So it can be worth it to take that $2 to $5, depending on what the fee is, in order to get your event out to more people and get the higher attendance. If you're looking to host an event in someone else's space, it's important to know your costs before you approach. And I say this for two reasons. One, I have been approached by people where I said, okay, and what is your cost to host this event? And they said, oh my gosh, I didn't know I would get this far. I didn't have an answer for that question. I said, okay, get back to me. I have had other people who said, oh, well, the event is $40. I didn't know you would need a cut. I just wanted to host my event there. If you are hosting your event at the business, you need to factor that into the price, just like you do when you're factoring wholesale costs. So here on the right side, you'll see we had a wreath making class with a local, I don't know, what do you call him? He was a historian. He wrote a lot of historical books about the Pinelands of New Jersey. And one of the New Jersey traditions is getting grapevines, and he would hand make all the wreaths. He would gather all the products, the white pine and the other berries and bows that he would make. So he was able to host this event in our space. So he used our reach to host the event, and he provided all the spaces himself. So people had a lot of fun. I was really impressed with the wreaths that they made. But one item that we like to see before hosting this event, it's called a pro forma. And this is something that's used to calculate financial results using certain projections or presumptions. So the formal definition is that it's a preliminary invoice that is sent to a buyer before a sale is confirmed. So it highlights deliverables such as the goods and services to be delivered, their prices, shipping information, and delivery date. So what this looks like in a marketing space is you'll say, here's the cost of the supplies, here's the cost of the person hosting it, here's the cost of our marketing budget, we're selling it for this price, and we expect to make this much. So you've got the bottom line on what the anticipated profit is. So those are some questions you'll want to have answered. The wholesale cost for your event, consider both the cost of the supplies, but also your time as a teacher, not just what it costs you to host that. Are you charging a flat fee for your time there? Is it $200 for the whole hour, or is it just $10 per person, whoever shows up? Will you have a marketing budget for this yourself or through the place hosting? What's in it for the business? If the ticket's going to be $20, are you each getting 10? And note that if the price gets higher, you're less likely to have people come. So that's a bit of a trade-off on the profit chart. So some quick math at the bottom was if you want 20 and they want 20, you anticipate 20 people coming, is $400 for each of you worth your time? Will people pay $40 for this? And I have a picture on the side. So this is from Honeycone Ice Cream and Little House Brewing. They're located in Chester, but it's an example of what fun partnerships can look like. So they did a beer and an ice cream flight. Amazing. And I really liked their flyer, which they put it on social media. So you can't scan the QR code necessarily, but that's a great flyer to have. If you put a QR code, people can scan that and go directly to the site to buy a ticket for your event. And it was just a really fun partnership. These businesses are basically across the street from each other. So they have overlapping audiences, people who like to enjoy food and drinks, but they have different products. So they're not competing for the same market space. And now they've got people going to both of their stores. So a lot of fun. Let's talk a bit about wholesale selling, because while you might have a partnership, as you start to expand, you'll have to think about wholesale pricing. So starting this with another quote, the myth that a memorable purchasing experience matters is false. The online experience for wholesale e-commerce websites should be as minimal as possible. Buyers want products that perform. Buyers have POs to enter and want the least amount of hiccups as possible. So this is true for consumers as well, where you don't want something done in 10 clicks that you could have done in 5 clicks. You don't want to be confused on your purchasing journey. You want it to be streamlined. So the biggest hurdle when it comes to small businesses selling wholesale is that your margins are already small. So you can't compete with a lot of the big box, big name brands where people are, getting usually cheaper items shipped over from China. You have to show your value that this handmade item is better. So it's up to you what you're willing to sell for at wholesale costs. But I will say the average retail markup is 50%, depending on the industry. Maybe it's 30, maybe it's 70. I know personally, when I worked at the garden center, if we were partnering with a local business, we would cut it down to 30%, maybe even 20% if it was something that people really liked, but we just couldn't. So think about that when you are making your wholesale prices. How much does the business need to mark it up to make it worth their time to carry your product? You have a couple options in terms of pitching your inventory to people. The basic, most common one is purchase in full. So a customer purchases your products. It is now theirs. It is not your problem. They have paid you. You are done. There's also something called pay by scan. This is a sales model that many growers work with based on the retailers they sell to, where live or perishable goods that die or expire on the shelf are at no cost, are tossed at no cost to the retailer. So this is really common with big box retailers to keep competitive prices while taking on minimal risk. So I've told other people, when you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, that's a pay by scan model. The farmers aren't paid until that item is purchased. If it dies on the shelf, Home Depot doesn't care about watering their tomatoes because they don't have any loss if that doesn't make it. So on one hand, the pay by scan model means you're getting out the door to big box retailers in large quantities, but it also means that you might not see a return on every single item. Similar to pay by scan is consignment, but the difference with consignment is that retailers can return unsold inventory to the vendor. So this is really common with bookstores. Authors will sell their books, and the bookstores will have a contingency that says if this doesn't sell, I am giving it back to you and you are refunding me the leftover inventory. So why might you want to do that if it's at more risk to you? Because you can get your items in the door. You can work to prove that this product will sell. So sometimes businesses want you to take on a little bit of risk in order to prove that that's worth their time to have that product in there. And then you can see if it was a fit, if you were correct about your overlapping audiences, and go from there. I wanted to also take a moment for wholesale portals, because being a small business, it can be really difficult to get that ordering process done. Maybe you sell B2C already, business to consumer, and you have an online website where people can buy your items in the off season. That's great. If you keep that e-commerce platform open year round and maybe just close your farm stand. But when you're selling B2B, business to business, you'll want to make a couple of changes to your shopping experience. So I still have dealt with people who have paper invoices, and it is very inconvenient. One, because anytime you make an update, now my paper invoice that you sent is outdated. So I would submit an order and they go, actually, we changed our prices last week. Actually, we took that item off our inventory last week. So it's difficult to fax that over when you want to have a fluid, changing, adaptable inventory. So I do recommend setting up a wholesale portal on your e-commerce website. So I know specifically I've worked with Shopify. You can create a tax override and exemption and do a 50% off discount code for each business's private use. And wholesales are tax-free because only retail is taxed. And so what this looks like is we were purchasing shirts from a small business in Florida. And so what she did was she said, hey, shop our normal Shopify site like you are a consumer, add everything to your cart. Then this is your private code. Type that into the coupons and codes. You'll get 50% off of your entire purchase and be tax exempt. So that was a really easy way for a small business to have that workaround to make ordering for other retailers easier. And that way you don't have to talk to people and play phone tag and email tag and all that good stuff. It's very automated. If you're really growing your wholesale side, you could look into the next level, which is separate password protected wholesale websites with customer accounts, catalog browsing, wholesale price lists. It will make invoicing much easier. However, I think given the size of most small businesses and local farms, something like that is at a larger scale level than what you would really need. But just keeping in mind, the easier buyers can find products, the more likely they are to place an order and being able to browse at their own leisure. The next section we're getting into is merchandising and what it means to have your products in someone's store. So I have two cute examples from the garden center. I could go on and on with photos from them. They were really into merchandising. They had beautiful Christmas displays, but I included one here from Lunar New Year because that's also coming up. On a nice bamboo display, it's got layers, sculptures, the vases, there's other plants mixed in there. So there's a lot that you can do when building a display. It doesn't have to be all plants. It can be plants and statues and pots and watering cans and products and kind of mixing it in. So it's not just, yes, buy this. It's, wow, that looks really nice. And I'd love to have that in my home. The other photo I have, there's a backstory to it. So about 2 years ago, marijuana was legalized in New Jersey. And I thought, how fun would it be if we said, hey guys, our grass is legal too. So we had this fun sign out in the shrub field. And I put that sign on it, and I included some other pictures in the Facebook post on just of the actual grasses we have, the miscanthus and things like that. And people thought it was so funny. So we boosted the ad and we got maybe like $50. We got a notification from Facebook that was like, your ad is performing 500% better than your normal ads, just because it was something silly. So I'm sure you've seen other things on the internet using signage to have a joke to really resonate with people. If you don't feel like you're good at merchandising and making displays, you can find other ways to reach people through displays. When you make a display, you'll want to create desirability. So here's another photo I came across. I do a lot of work with garden centers and farms, which is why I'm always coming across these pictures and I keep them in my mind for another presentation. So as I said about mixing what you have, this isn't pure maple syrups. You've got cookbooks, you've got candles, honey, bourbon maple syrup, maple syrup candies down there. There's honey sticks in the bottom corner. So there's all kinds of different products on one shelf that might grab people's interest in a couple different ways. It's important to invest in your displays. The rustic farm look can be really easy to furnish through thrift stores, Facebook Marketplace, or DIY projects. I know we've gotten a lot of spools for $20 to $50, depending on the farm. It's just an old spool that someone had wire on. It's of no use to them. They consider it junk. They think, why would anyone want this? You can then buy that as a display, and people go, oh my gosh, that's so rustic farm. I love it. Vertical displays, which I'll have more pictures of, are really important to bring items to eye height and into the customer's focus, especially if you're setting up at a farmer's market. This is also why, if you're at the cash registers, you'll notice all the stuffed animals are on the lower shelves. They have candy on lower shelves because that's where the children's eye height is at to go, oh my gosh, mom, 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 right? I'm sure you've seen it and you've thought, oh, I wish that wasn't on a child's eye level. So visual merchandising is very important when you're talking about the psychology of reaching the consumer, because horizontal merchandising has a wider width to get their field of view. Also, if you've got all these overstimulating things grabbing people's attention, to put it right in front of their eyes can really help with that. So the first picture on the left is a photo off the internet of someone set up at a craft fair, but you can see she's got stacked levels of things as well as things on the table itself, but it would be a really great investment to set up a real quick display when you're at a market. I also took a picture of Hudson Valley Seed Co. When we purchased seeds from them, they sent a vertical display with it, with their branding. As I said, it's very common for the seller to provide something to attract people's view. So that's a great example of a very small display to be placed in someone else's store, easily on a register, on a table. And it still has that tiered look to draw people's eyes. And they're just beautiful designs. If you're familiar with Hudson Valley, I love their artwork. They also support local artists, so it's like all kinds of local support. And that brings us to the end. So I have some parting words, which is that yes, brick and mortar retail is hard because it means you have more inventory sitting on shelves. There's more pressure to move that product. It's harder to track than digital e-commerce. When you're doing something digital, you've got the digital shopping carts, you can see abandoned carts, you can track their purchasing journey. Whereas when someone's in the store, you don't necessarily have that data on what their purchasing experience was like and why they were drawn to it. So the best tips are to combine audiences, cross-promote, and creating a strong brand identity, putting your logo on your items, encouraging people to learn more. People will pay more for handmade goods if you could hook them with your story, which makes me ask, is your digital presence ready to tell your story? If someone went to your website or went to your social media, is your story on there? Are you able to really reach them with the art of storytelling? And if you're thinking, my digital presence is not ready for that, then I would encourage you to come to our next webinar next week on website makeovers. So it's 1 week from today on Thursday, February 15th at 6 p.m. And that will be hosted by another Miranda Creative person who is really good at digital marketing. And they can help you with some tips and tricks to building your website. All right, so that is my presentation. This will be recorded if I talked too fast. Are there any questions? I see Sarah's been gotten by those candy shells.
Yes, those candy shelves get us quite a bit. And of course, I'm always the bad guy. That was great, Julia. I learned a lot. I am not a marketing professional by any means, so I really appreciated that. That was super informative. And I just love seeing all those pictures of all of the like displays and the garden centers. I'm really craving anything green right now in my life. So that's why I come to my office.
Yeah, it definitely had its perks working in a garden center in the middle of winter.
So we do have a question in the chat from Aaron. You guys are more than welcome to jump on camera and unmute now and have a conversation with us. It would be great to see an example of a pro forma spreadsheet as a resource. So that might be something we can share after the call if we can find a couple example types of those.
Yeah, I did look. Basically, it looks like an invoice. I couldn't find anything that was non-confidential and, open to being able to share, but I was thinking the same thing. But you would just have a breakdown of all the line items and all the costs so that the business owner, they want to see numbers, they want to see profit, and putting the hard number in front of them.
All right, any other questions for Julia at this time? Okay. Well, Sarah, is there anything else you'd like to add, or are we all set?
Works for me.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us on our first live web hosting event. This has been really fun. I'm sure we all learned a few things. We'll be sure to share the recording out in a short couple days time to make sure that people can watch it again if they need to. I see Aaron saying he can't wait to watch the recording again. There we go. So yeah, we'll let you know when it's up, and thank you everybody for joining. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you.